بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل نعم المولى ونعم النصير أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين سيما بقية الله الأعظم روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Today's topic, the Shahadat, Martyrdom of Bibi Fatima, alayhi salam. Today's topic is a serious topic that I want to go into objectively and try to speak about factually when we look at the history, because the Shahadat of Bibi Fatima and the events that we see around it are a crucial part of history, where things changed in history. Islam, that was in the time of the Prophet, the environment of Muslims in the time of the Prophet, it was an environment where everyone was hopeful, where everything was good, where everything was going upwards. And then the demise of the Prophet, and as soon as he passed away, things changed so fast and went downwards in a decline so fast that it is a shocking history. It is bitter and it is hard to go through such events. So when I speak, I do speak with a soberness that is due to that situation. So when we look at that, we see the Shias, the followers of Ahlulbayt, their view is clear on what has happened, what went down, and what transpired in that part of history. When we look at the books of Shia and the ulama who have written on it and the hadiths that we have from the Imams, it is clear that there were atrocities that took place and how those things happened and what happened, who was responsible for it, and then the ending being the Shahadat of Bibi Fatima. That is on one side. But when we look at, for example, even Sunni and their books and their history, it doesn't deny that. They don't mention many details, but they do mention that there were atrocities that took place. Let me go into some of these books from the early history of Islam to show what happened, how this has been mentioned in the books. Then I will mention some of the Shia sources so that it becomes clear to everyone what we say. Now, for us, it needs to be made clear that the truth and what is the truth doesn't depend on history books. It really depends on the words of the Imams and the hadiths of the Imams, because they are the ones who exposed the enemies, they are the ones who laid out facts, and they are the ones who made the truth apparent. I will get into that later. But first, let's go into some history and see where these books have been written and how they have been written. The earliest history that was written regarding this incident and the incidents that happened before the Shahadat took place is by a person by the name of Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba. Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba, who lived in the time of Imam Qadim alayhi salam and Imam Ali alayhi salam. During that time, he lived. He is the teacher, one of the teachers of Bukhari, the muhaddis and hadith writer who is known amongst the Sunnis as the best hadith writer that they have. This person, Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba, is the teacher of that person, and he wrote hadith before Bukhari did. And so in his book that is called Musannaf, he writes about this incident this way. He says that when Abu Bakr heard about Ali not giving bay'at and allegiance, and that the followers of Ali, the close companions of Ali, have gathered in his house to discuss the situation, he told Umar to go and see what you can do. So Umar, he came to the house of Fatima and he threatened them that they have to come out and that they should come out. And there it is said, he doesn't mention in detail as to what happened and all that, but he said that if they don't come out, then he is going to kill them. So there, that one. Then you go to, for example, the second reference. This person by the name of Biladhari, who also lived in the same time, around that time, in his book Ansabul Ashraf, adds to that and says that he actually spoke to Bibi Fatima, because when he came to the house and threatened them, Bibi Fatima spoke to him, and he spoke to her and said, she told him, "Are you going to burn my house down?" And to which he replied, he says that yes, this is going to help the religion that your father came for. Meaning, burning down your house is going to help Islam. That is, now you can understand from there, that is what's written in that book, which is an early book, and a known scholar has written that book. So let's go and give some more references. These are early references. I'm not even going to go into the later ones that are more expansive and more describing the event. This book, which is called Al-Imama wa Siyasa, is written by a person by the name of Ibn Qutayba, who lived a generation after these two. And he says that Umar came to the house of Fatima and he threatened them and said that we will burn down this house. And he says that someone asked him and said to him that the daughter of Rasulullah, Fatima, is in the house. Are you going to burn the house while she's in it? And to which Umar replied, it doesn't matter, so be it, let her burn also. In other words, this is something that he threatened. He made it clear that they said this. Now obviously the book doesn't go into detail as to what happened. It is just leaves that empty. It's like it's erased. Then after that, we see that he adds, the same author adds more to it in another chapter, and he says that Fatima cried out in a loud voice to the Prophet and said, "Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of Allah, what are your followers doing to us? Look at the zulm and the wrong that they're doing to us." When she cried out like that, the author says that a lot of the people who came with Umar, their minds changed. They said that, listen, we don't want to be a part of this. And they went away. They left him and went away. But Umar insisted with the people that were still there. He says that I'm going to do what I have to do. So it is clear that the threat, and they came to the house, this is in the history of Islam, is in the history of Muslims in the early history. Now, as we go a little bit further in the history of Tabari, We see that Zubair, who was also a part in the house of Imam Ali, he said that when Umar came and threatened, Zubair came out with his sword drawn to fight Umar and those who came to the house of Fatima, to which he was overpowered. They took away his sword and they overwhelmed him. And so that's what he said. They assaulted him. They assaulted Zubair and they had him on the ground. So he couldn't do anything after that. So now you see, this is all these history books. Now again, these books are not going into the details as to what happened, because that would truly expose the wrong that was done. And they leave that because there's no way that they wanted to speak about it. Now, amongst the Sunnis, we see many of the Sunni scholars later on, in reading the books and reading history, have written down details as to what happened, including Ibn Abil Hadid. Ibn Abil Hadid, he is known for the shar or explanation of Nahj al-Balagha that is regarded worldwide as the best explanation of Nahj al-Balagha that has been written. And he goes into detail as to what happened that coincides with the history that we have in our books. Now, our historians, for example, Shia historians, you see that this incident is described very much in detail in the history of Salim ibn Qais. He's a Shia historian who wrote, he's the earliest historian that we have. He wrote in his book regarding detail of how they entered the house and how Fatima was physically harmed, and how the son that she had, Mohsin, that she was carrying, she lost. And he goes into those details. Now, this is history. Now, we are unanimous. Shias are unanimous throughout history about what happened because the Imams are clear on that. That's why it's important for us to see what happened in history of Islam, and important things that have to deal with our faith. We have to see it through the eyes and the words of our Imams. And that's important, everyone, for us to know that. We don't just look at history books and decide there. We also look and see the truth of where the Imam stood and where we're going with that. So let me go into some of the hadiths of the Imams as they spoke about their mother and their grandmother in this manner. When we see, for example, first from Imam Hassan Mushtaba alayhi salam, when we see him in a debate that he had with Muawiyah and his henchmen, as he was in that debate and that argument that was happening, there was a person in the audience by the name of Mughira ibn Sha'ba. This Mughira ibn Sha'ba, when Imam Hassan looked at him, he pointed him out and said to everyone in that room, and he told him actually, you were the one who struck my mother, the daughter of the Prophet, and bloodied her and made her lose her child. He speaks about this openly so that it can be known to everyone that Fatima's death was not some natural death that she had at the age of 18. That it was something that was devastating that happened to her. Physical harm, violence. And when we look at that, he mentioned that. And then after that, we see Imams have mentioned it, but clearly Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked How did Bibi Fatima die? What was the reason of her death? So Imam Sadiq says in this regard, he says that regarding the reason for her shahadat, he says that it was because of the fact that Qanfaz, he took the name of Qanfaz, who is, he says, a servant of Umar, on the order of Umar, struck the daughter of the Prophet with the iron sheath of a sword. Not the blade, but the sheath was iron. He struck her with that, and that blow caused her to lose her child, Mohsen. And losing that child, and that struck, that blow that was given to her was the reason for her shahadat, for her to die. Bibi Fatima did not die a natural death, like is the notion of many Sunnis. They claim that she died a natural death because she cried for her father. Yes, she cried for her father, but she did not die because of that. In fact, we have hadith that says regarding the health and the strength, physical strength of Bibi Fatima, Rasulullah says that Allah has blessed my daughter with physical strength, that she has the strength of 2 women. So physically, we have hadith that says that she is strong, that she is healthy, and she is 18 years old. 18 years old is when you are at the prime of your health. There is no sickness in anywhere in hadith that has been found, or history that has been found that she is going through, or illness, or disease. So there is no proof of that. So she is healthy. And crying for her father is not going to make her die. So this, as Imam Sadiq says, this violent blow and this attack on her, this assault on her that happened led to her death. Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam says in so many hadiths, not just one place, but there's so many books regarding this hadith. It has come so many places that Inna Fatima Zahra Siddiqatun wa Shahida, that Fatima is both Siddiq and she is a martyr. She is surely martyred in the way of Allah. So Shahida is mentioned by Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam. For the Shias, since the beginning of our history as it happened, and the fact that her death and her martyrdom, shahadat, was so difficult, and in such difficult circumstances, it has been a sore point for all the Imams after that, and also the followers of the Imams. For them, she was martyred, and her grave missing and not visible and not known is itself the tragedy that we need to remind everyone of, is that if everything was all right and as she died a natural death, then where is her grave? Why did she give the will to hide her grave and not show it to anyone? What was the reason behind that? Because yes, many people, it was against their interest that they informed Fatima and what happened about her. In fact, these hadiths or these sayings are found in books of history as to what Abu Bakr had said. Abdurrahman ibn Auf went to Abu Bakr on his deathbed, and Abu Bakr was saying, I wish that I could take back 3 things. I wish I could take back 3 things. And he was crying for it. He knew, and he was crying, and he was in fear. He says, what are those 3 things that you want to take back? He says, I wish that I could take back what I did to Fatima. He said that, but it's too late. It's too late. And that is why it's important for us that the subject, sensitive it is, and it is sober, and it needs to be talked about in a sober way so that it can be made clear. For our children, it has to be made clear that how our mother has been killed and the atrocity that had been done to her, and that was the crucial point in our history that everything changed. And if Karbala happened, according to our hadith, it is because of what happened to Bibi Fatima's house first. The house of Ahlulbayt was burned in Medina, was raided in Medina before it was burned and raided in Karbala. So with that, we should end that and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah opens the eyes of those who are blind so that they can see the truth, and that He keeps us firm on the path of Fatima and her children. وآخر الدعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
بسم الله الرحمن